In a future where technology promises to end the world's energy problems, a company called Alterplex unveils a bold invention known as the Energy Tower. The project is presented as a breakthrough that could power the planet for 1,000 years, but behind the promise lies a much darker reality. Will, a physicist and former NASA pilot, is recruited by Abigail, a high-ranking director at Alterplex. She convinces him to join by offering medical help and stability for his struggling family. Though hesitant at first, he accepts the role, not realizing the true risks that come with it. His job centers around a mysterious device called the Cube, which is designed to interact with the company's experimental towers. The towers function by creating a mirrored version of Earth, an artificial dimension called Echo. This duplicate world was intended to be lifeless, an empty shell filled with resources that could be harvested and converted into endless energy for humanity. But when the system goes live, something goes terribly wrong. Instead of an empty copy, Echo is littered with destruction, chaos, and signs of life that should not exist. Will finds himself stranded in this fractured world after the project's launch. Believed to be dead by both allies and enemies, he slowly uncovers the devastation left behind: ruined cities, corpses, and hostile factions. News reports reveal that eco-activists known as the Rebels are battling against Alterplex, blaming the company for destabilizing the planet. Even worse, strange energy vortexes begin appearing in the sky, releasing powerful shockwaves and pulling random objects into Echo. As Will searches for answers, he reconnects with Michael, a former colleague who has since sided with the Rebels. Michael is stunned to see him alive, having witnessed the destruction of the lab where Will supposedly died. Their uneasy reunion is cut short when drones and military forces arrive, confirming that both sides view Will as a key piece in the conflict. Through the Cube, Will realizes that the project's core design has failed. Echo was never supposed to contain people, animals, or organic life, yet here they are. This error threatens not only the alternate world but also Earth itself. With time running out and the system's countdown already in motion, Will faces a grim truth: the energy towers may not have been humanity's salvation, they may be the very thing that destroys it. Will reveals the cube to Michael and insists it must be delivered to the tower if there's any hope of fixing the crisis. The problem is, he has no idea what the countdown on it means, or why the word resetter keeps flashing. Those details were never explained to him. Michael struggles to accept the situation, especially after witnessing bizarre phenomena like trains dropping out of the sky. Will suggests that the universe might be trying to correct itself, drawing energy from Echo while simultaneously displacing massive objects from Earth. The theory is staggering, and Michael admits that almost no one else would ever believe it, but Will urges him to keep it between them. If they can just reach the tower and link the cube, everything could still be set right. Their plan is interrupted when Abigail arrives, urging Will to come with her and meet Renard, the company's leader, who claims to have a way forward. Before they can act, a drone targets the group, failing to recognize Abigail and opening fire. They race away in a car, but the pursuit is relentless. Will is forced to fight back, using explosives to bring down the drone. The resulting blast topples their vehicle, leaving them shaken but alive. As the group regroups, Abigail pushes again for Will to follow her to Renard, but he refuses. He knows the drones were specifically after him, and he no longer trusts Alterplex or its leadership. Instead, he insists that the only path left is reaching the tower and completing the task himself. After some hesitation, Abigail agrees to follow his lead. Together, they begin moving cautiously through the ruined streets. Will tries again to contact his sister, leaving desperate voicemails. Abigail attempts to comfort him, promising that his family was evacuated safely under her watch. Along the way, they encounter grim reminders of the fallout: walls scrawled with anti-company slogans, destroyed neighborhoods, and rows of bodies, victims of the gravitational anomalies caused by the tower. Their march is cut short once more when drones appear overhead. Forced into hiding inside the wreckage of a downed plane, the group listens as automated orders demand their surrender. When they refuse, the drones unleash another brutal attack. Will barely survives a fresh drone attack and, bleeding, is pulled through chaos by Abby and Michael. The wound flashes him back to quieter moments with his sister Mia and his nephew watching the towers come online, memories that underscore everything he's trying to protect. In the present, his injury is severe. Despite that, the rebels eventually take him in, reluctantly treating him and removing the shrapnel. Though suspicious of Michael's loyalties, they shelter him long enough to stabilize him. While recovering, Will is haunted by thoughts of his family and the life he left behind. He remembers Mia's tears and his nephew's longing to go home, small, human details that contrast with the massive experiment he helped build. The rebels press him for the truth about the towers, but Will refuses to betray what he knows, insisting he alone must finish the job at the tower. That secrecy collapses when an insurgent named Hugo discovers the cube and Will's belongings and assumes it's a tracker. Panic erupts, an explosion rocks the hideout and armed attackers flood in. During the confusion, Will, Abby, and Michael flee through emergency passages, pursued by drones broadcasting orders to capture the fugitive from Alterplex. In the tunnel, Abby reluctantly explains the cube's worst-kept secret. The resetter is a built-in failsafe. If balance can't be restored, connecting the cube to the tower will trigger a protocol that destroys both the tower and the entire Echo construct. Hearing this, Will realizes the mission is essentially a one-way trip. If he reaches the tower and activates the cube to stop the catastrophe, it could mean ending Echo forever. Faced with that truth, Will's mind snaps back to his nephew. He visits the boy, shares a tender moment, and receives the child's toy airplane, an emotional anchor that crystallizes his stakes. Confronted with Abby's admission that the resetter exists and that the task may be suicide, Will loses trust in Alterplex and in her reassurances. Desperate for answers about his family's fate, he breaks away, determined to go home and find the truth himself, even as Abby begs him to stay. When Will finally reaches what's left of his home, the sight is devastating. The sky above is torn with countless portals, raining ships and debris, and one massive object has crushed his house. Half the structure is gone, burning in ruins. The destruction forces him to confront his own guilt. Memories of telling Mia and Donnie he regretted uprooting them, promising to take them home, only for tragedy to strike before he could make things right. Sifting through the wreckage, he discovers a body and realizes with horror that his family is gone. His grief turns to rage, and he lashes out at Abby for lying about their safety. Before he can process further, Alterplex security forces arrive, seize him, and drag him back to the company. They strip him of the cube, knock him out, and bring him before Renard, the company's ruthless leader. Aboard Renard's private jet, the truth becomes clear. Renard has no intention of letting Will destroy the tower. He admits both universes cannot exist together, and reveals his willingness to sacrifice Earth to preserve Echo and his own survival. The ultimatum he offers is cruel. Will can either remain in Echo, where his family is dead, or return to Earth, where they live, but only to wait for the inevitable collapse caused by the project. Neither choice is acceptable. Determined to take control, Will fights back. He disables Renard, hijacks the plane, and deliberately crashes it. Against all odds, he survives the wreck, retrieves the cube, and hides in the debris. Alterplex troops quickly arrive, capturing Michael and threatening to kill him unless Will surrenders. Unable to abandon his friend, Will steps out and engages in a desperate firefight, gunning down several of the operatives. Only the head of security remains, and the confrontation turns into a vicious hand-to-hand struggle. Will is overpowered, beaten, and on the verge of death, until Michael manages to strike back, saving him by killing the final enemy. With Michael's help, Will makes one final push toward the tower. Michael, already gravely wounded, insists on seeing his friend through to the end, knowing the mission could destroy both him and Echo, but believing it's the only way to save Earth. They commandeer a security vehicle and speed through heavy resistance. Alterplex forces and drones descend on them, determined to protect Renard's collapsing universe. In the chaos, Michael is hit, forcing Will to take the wheel while his friend mans the gun. When an entire swarm of drones arrives, Will manages a decisive shot against the lead unit, turning the tide by forcing the remaining machines to annihilate each other. Every step costs them blood and strength, but they press on. At last, Will reaches the tower, racing through its corridors, while memories of his nephew and sister weigh heavily on him, promises he could never fulfill, faith he misplaced in the project. At the terminal, he inserts the cube and prepares to activate it. Just as his hand hovers over the command, a gunshot drops him to the ground. Through blurred vision, he sees Abigail. She has betrayed him, refusing to allow the cube's activation. Summoning the last of his willpower, Will reaches out and triggers the protocol anyway. The resetter engages instantly, unleashing the destruction sequence that tears Echo apart. Furious, Abigail shoots him again, but it no longer matters. The collapse is irreversible. Clutching the small toy airplane, a reminder of his family, Will dies as the parallel world crumbles into nothing. In the real world, the aftermath is quiet but profound. Mia steps outside with her son and watches as the tower's energy beam flickers out and vanishes. Earth has been saved, but the cost was staggering. The story closes with a haunting question: if saving your family and your entire world required destroying another universe, or raising everyone and everything within it, could you make that choice?